Hello, everyone, and welcome to ArtsAlive, right here on Channel 95, broadcast out of Bristol Community College in Fall River. And it is my pleasure to have a poet, lyricist poet, however you prefer to be called, Ed Siegel, and his wife, Michelle Siegel. Michelle is the music writer for the group and also the singer. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that you've pre-recorded some songs already, and I don't know if you want to talk at all about those, or if you want to just tell me how you began this partnership in creative writing, shall we call it?
Well,
Nice way of creative writing, I think, too.
We have to kind of step it back a little bit. Both Michelle and I, Michelle as a singer, performer, and me as a writer, we had a long period where we didn't do any of that. And it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I reconnected with a friend from college who's been in the music business, been a performer in the south coast of Maine for quite a few years, 40, 45 years. And through our reconnection with him, we both became reinterested in that,
Nice.
and writing music, and for me, for writing poetry.
Now, were you was that sort of your love initially? Is that what drew the two of you together back in the day, or?
No, that wouldn't have been it. We had friends in common, and that's how we met.
He was actually a blind date.
But I see more clearly now.
Yes, exactly.
And you're still with me, so that's a good thing.
That's a line from a song. I see more clearly now. Yeah. So it wasn't really music that was kind of the bond. It was other things.
No, it was initially our friendship, and then our love, which was sealed the bond.
Yeah. And what did you do in those days? What was your sort of your real world work, so to speak?
Back in the day when we met, we were students.
Yeah.
And after university life, we both went into teaching. First, Michelle taught. She worked at Save the Children in Westport, Connecticut. And I taught English and creative writing in Weston, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And
then I got a job teaching in Wilton, Connecticut, and we were there for 35 years.
That's a long commitment.
It was a long time, yeah. When we finished graduate school, we tried to find jobs in Rhode Island, but that was back in the day, and jobs were hard to come by. And
that was recession and gas lines. It was difficult.
Yeah.
So what started as a one-year position for me turned into 35.
Isn't it amazing how that can happen? It's just like that, you know.
It is.
You look back on the years and you say, "Wow, where did they go?"
And it's funny because before we were married, when we were in college, I was singing and playing guitar to a certain extent, not as much as I am now. And he was writing poetry. But then, you get married, go to graduate school. We did it in that order. Then had jobs and kids, and
takes a back seat.
It did. It took a big back seat.
Well, as a senior at the University of Rhode Island, I switched majors at the last minute and went from political science to English because of my interest in writing.
Right.
And what I didn't anticipate was once I started teaching English and creative writing, I found very little time to do my own writing.
Oh, I know. People will say to me, because I do some of that teaching, as we talked about earlier, and they'll say, "Well, do you write? If you've written a book?" I say, "No, I don't have time to do anything like that." And I don't know if I could, but I just don't really have the time to do it.
Right, and so that's, it was fortuitous. Once we moved back to Rhode Island, we reconnected with our friend up in Maine, and that kind of kick-started both of our interests in music and in writing, and it's been a great ride ever since.
And what brought you to the Rhode Island? Had you always wanted to live it? I know you said you were from Newport originally.
Right, I grew up in Newport, Rhode Island. Michelle grew up in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and it was always the plan to come back.
Come back, yeah.
I need to be close to the ocean.
I know that feeling, yeah. You do. It's very hard. When
two years at Indiana University without bagels or the sea, it was tough.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the music and what you kind of look for in a poem. Let's say, as it may start as a poem and turn into lyrics.
Well, initially, I'd say that it was easier for me to go from the poetry into the music because the lyric was already there. It wasn't the rhyming and meter of a song, but the basis for it was there. And the more I turn some of my poems into songs, the more I decide, well, let's start with a song and see where that takes me. And I find it easier writing the songs than I
Really,
do
yeah.
with the poetry. The poetry I struggle with.
You don't have to be quite as...
Yeah, once I have a kind of mental tune in my head, and I often know with a song where I want to end up,
Yeah.
whereas with writing poetry, I don't know where I'm going to go once I start. I start with
Exactly.
an idea or an image,
Yeah.
a line, and then it takes me to where it wants to go. But with a song, I control it more.
Yeah. And so you're singing these songs.
So, and I'm
Michelle.
writing the music for them
Writing the
as
music
well.
for them, right,
So,
yeah.
and sometimes it takes a while to gel. And so he'll drop a song in front of me and he said, I got a new one for you. And then a couple of weeks may go by and he'll say, well, I got another one for you. And I haven't even started on the first one yet. But
That's
then,
okay, you'll get to it. Yeah.
well, what happens, I kind of have to wait for just something to tickle my brain and to get the right feel for it, or just even if it's one line of melody, and then I can build off of that. But sometimes just waiting for that one line to come, and where do you want to go with it? So.
And what's interesting is sometimes when I'm writing a song, I've got a tune in my mind to help me go, but I never share that with Michelle. I'm always curious to see what she'll come up with.
Yeah.
And invariably, she comes up with something different.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting the way that whole creative process works.
Well, it is, yeah. I mean,
On either the first or the second song he handed me, and I put some music to it, and I played it for him, and he goes, eh. I said, what do you mean, eh? He goes, that's not exactly what I had in mind. I said, well, why don't you tell me what you had in mind, and we'll see what we can do with
Yeah,
that. So
see if we can work it up, yeah.
So he let me know what he was thinking about, and we totally changed it. And it might have been New Tomorrow. I think it was New Tomorrow. And actually, it's a song that I really like now, and I'm glad that I changed it, because
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have liked it as much. But every now and then I'll say, tell me what you're thinking here. Do you want country? Do you want, fast, slow?
I heard an interesting interview last night on PBS it was about the last, I guess, public speech given by John Kennedy. And it was the Frost Library at Amherst. And it was Robert Frost that was being interviewed in this particular segment of it. And because they had a little bit of a rift between them before Frost died about something that he said on a visit to Russia that Kennedy really didn't like. And so, but in talking about all of his past and so forth, he was talking about writing the lyrics, the lyrics, and actually it wasn't, it was a poem that he's written for, it's a relatively new production of a kind of a modern opera that they're performing at what is it, I'm trying to think of the name of the place in Tanglewood, at Tanglewood.
Oh, okay.
And he was saying the exact same thing, Frost. He said, well, I can put it. He said, do you think you can write the lyrics for this? The man who put the opera together. And he said, I don't know. He said, I can write a poem for it. Yeah. So he said, well, you do that. He said, you just write the poem, he said, and I'll worry about the song,
Right.
about the music. And which is exactly what happened. But it's so interesting that you're bringing that very same kind of story to this
I think
now.
it adds that other layer of creativity, because there's what input I can give, and then the input that comes from Michelle, and then it's this creation.
Exactly, or then the input that comes from the two of you.
Yeah.
Coming together to make that piece. Yeah, yeah. So I think that might be it. Do you have any productions coming up in
Not
September? The show will be running in August, so we'll be looking at August, September. Anything happening?
Well, I am hosting open mics. So I host an open mic at the Valley Inn Restaurant every Thursday from 7 to 10.
Oh,
and
nice.
I perform there.
And that's in Portsmouth.
And that's in Portsmouth.
Portsmouth, right.
And I perform there. I usually start the show, bring on all the people who've come to sing. We're going to get Lucy to sing for us next week.
Oh, good. You'll be on here one of these days, Lucy. You'll be a guest.
And then I usually finish off the show. And honestly, it's my open mic. If somebody's singing a song and I know the harmony, I've always got 2 microphones set up. I'm going to jump in and sing harmony with them.
Good, yeah.
But they usually don't mind.
Yeah.
And now, starting on August 5th, I'm also going to be hosting a second open mic at the Elks Lodge in Newport on Mondays, starting then. It's going to have a 2-month trial run. We'll see how it goes.
Really getting immersed in the in the music
I
scene.
started in open mics,
Yeah.
and we met so many of our musical friends
Yeah.
through open mics who've become personal friends as well. And it's just a gift. It's a gift to share all of this talent out there
Yeah.
with whoever wants to come in. We share it with each other. You
Oh,
know,
I
and
agree,
it's,
totally, yeah.
It's, I love open mics. I really do.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a
it
lot
gives
of
people a
fun.
nice opportunity who might not ordinarily, be heard.
Yeah, and plus we have a lot of regular performers who come, people who have their own gigs,
Right.
who come and they'll play. And a lot of times it's a place to try out a new song before you break it out on a gig.
Exactly,
You try
yeah.
it in an open mic, and it's a little bit more casual atmosphere.
And they just come in if they're interested, and
Yeah.
they're there for the
And it's getting bigger and bigger every week, and so I'm
It
really
is, and
excited about
it's
that.
always surprising. You see somebody come in, you don't know them, and then they take the stage, and then it just blossoms. It's just amazing how much real talent is out there, and
Yes.
it's a great opportunity for people who might just kind of be in the closet about it to actually bring it out. And what's really interesting is to watch how, I've seen it with Michelle when 4 or 5 years ago she started in open mics, and she was a little nervous and stiff,
Yeah.
and the change. And then people who haven't seen her in, let's say, a couple of months or a year or 2 years, they say it's a different person.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And I see that happening with musicians that I've seen either at my own open mic is a little bit too new to see that much of an evolution, but who I might have seen at an earlier open mic,
Right.
and now I see them again either at mine or someone else's,
And they're
and they've
developing.
just really,
Yeah.
you get more presence and more confidence and everything.
A blossoming of the
yes,
of the
Absolutely.
yes, it's
person,
lovely.
Right.
So again, those dates are, if people are interested in this is in the Newport area.
Yes, so in Portsmouth, the Valley Inn, every Thursday from 7 to 10, and
Okay.
starting on August 5th, a Monday, at the Newport Elks Lodge on Bellevue and Pelham, from 6:30 to 9:30.
Okay. So if you're interested in having your voice heard out there, anyone listening?
Yes, please do.
Go on down Portsmouth and
Newport.
Newport, and you'll have a chance to take the mic and do a little bit of solo singing.
Absolutely.
Well, we thank you so much for being
Okay.
with us,
Thank
and we
you for
hope you'll
having
come
us.
back another time and
That would be
share
great.
some more music and some
We'd
more
love to.
thoughts and whatever's going on.
We'd love to.
Great. Thank
And we'll
you.
be right back. And now you're going to hear from Michelle Siegel.
So this first song is called Boston Lounge 1971. The year is important because in 1971 you could smoke in a bar, and you can't today. And there's a lot of smoke going on in this song. This originally started out as a poem, which my husband wrote, Ed Siegel, and we've converted it into a song. Cigarette smoke snakes through the lounge, swirling and rising as the doors open and close. And the gold-teed bartender swirls his towel across the bar, and he nods to the woman tapping the rim of her glass. He offers her another, but she says, "I'll take a pass." She keeps tapping to the tempo of trucking, and she's wondering when her life will begin. And the bar lights glimmer into her ginger and gin. It's the only wink her way all night. With a wiggle of her wrist, she sets the colors swirling in a merry-go-round of red and white. Her mouth creases into a half a smile as waves of 20-somethings flicker across the barroom mirror, their faces fragmented by bottlenecks and beer taps, and hers between the bourbon and the gin. And she's wondering when her life will begin. And she blows a mask of smoke at her reflection, dabs a pillow of ash onto the floor. She drops the butt into her drink and casts a long look at the opening and the closing of the door. Just like a woman comes on the jukebox, and on cue she spins off the stool. She sidesteps through the Marlboro haze light and makes her way out into the night. And she waits on the corner. She waves to the cabs, but they just pass her by, standing there in the gusts of cold air. She's alone again on the sidewalk on Kenmore Square. She's all alone again on Kenmore Square. All alone again on Kenmore Square. This next song is called Mason, and this also started off as a poem, and we converted it into a song. But as a matter of fact, Ed has a whole series of poems about Mason on his poetry page, Edward J. Siegel Poetry, on Facebook. And so anyway, this is Mason. Cold October night, air crisp as the leaves. Mason saunters down the sidewalk, lost in thoughts and memories of joy and love and losses, of joy and love and losses, of joy and love and losses. He never could foresee. He stops to pick up a chestnut. He rolls it in his palm. He's drawn into its ebb and swirls, and it brings him a state of calm. He remembers a bowl of chestnuts on a table in a home long gone. Pocketing the chestnut, Mason ambles on till a light in a window catches his eye. In the same room, two shadows appear, and swift as smoke the figures fly by. In the window up above, someone's looking through the shade, stares down at Mason, and it leaves him unafraid. He stares back at the light, and he feels his heart awake. In this small sliver of light, he feels his heart unbreak. Mason closes his eyes. He starts walking again. He doesn't look up, just straight ahead. Tries to forget what he left undone. Tries to forget what he left. What he left unsaid. Mason pulls up his collar against the wind, feels the chestnut now warm in his hand. He's lost again in his thoughts and memories of joy and love and losses he never could foresee. Of joy and love and losses, of joy and love and losses, joy and love and losses he never could foresee. Oh, he never could foresee, never could foresee, never could foresee. That's Mason. One of the things about that song, my husband often listens to my first draft and has suggestions. And in this one, he suggested that I do a change of tempo somewhere in there, and that's where you get that slow part coming in. So he's also a little bit of a musical coach as well. This next song did not start out as a poem. Sometimes, actually most of the times, when Eddie writes lyrics for me, they are right to a song as opposed to converting from a poem to a song. And so this is one of those, and it's called In My Dreams. A single clue. Now everything is off kilter, like a painting hung askew. What once was whole is now in smithereens. It seems I only find you in my dreams. I only find you in my dreams. Every day I'm chasing a shadow in a darkened room. The search just seems to leave me helpless, helpless, helpless. I find myself on the path to doom and gloom. I don't know if I should laugh or scream. Seems I find you only in my dreams. Is now my present tense, my future is just a blur. The dim and dark consequence of your leaving me alone and unsure. In this world turned monochrome, in this world without gravity, with no change in what I see. Every day I'm chasing a shadow in a darkened room. The search just seems to leave me helpless, helpless, helpless. I find myself on the path to doom and gloom. So it seems the only life for me is to live with you in my dreams. Just to live with you in my This one was also written just as a song. It did not start out as a poem, and it's called The Old Stone Mill. And the setting for this song is the Old Stone Mill that's in Newport, Rhode Island, in Turo Park, which is on the corner of Pelham and Broadway, right across from the Elks. Oh, I'm sorry, I said Broadway, at the corner of Pelham and Bellevue, not Broadway. My bad. When I first saw you, you didn't see me. We'd hit all the bars in the harbor, but I couldn't drink my fill. And there you were, in the moonlight, in the park, with the old stone mill. I stood in the sidewalk shadows, staring as you stared above, and wondered what brought you here tonight. Was it sleeplessness or a long lost love? I stayed there in the darkness as you seemed to drift away. Is it the comfort of this place, or are you waiting the light of day? You walked around the old mill twice, chanting something I scarce could hear. Then a piece of paper you shook and waved and tossed into the air. I stood in the sidewalk shadows, staring as you stared above, and wondered what brought you here tonight. Was it sleeplessness or a long lost love? You left just then, disappearing into the night. I found that slip of paper and I held it to the moon, but its meaning to me is still a mystery. There were no letters, only runes. So the night brings me to the mill again, and I stare at the moon above, and I hope that you found sleep tonight, sleep and love, for neither of which have I. Oh, sleep and love, not mine. You brought me to the mill again. From your chant I cannot flee. The sleep and love I thought you lost, well, what you stole from me, what you stole from